Schumacher, Barrichello in the white and blue Williams BMW, Ralph Schumacher. There's one of the Benettons coming into line.
They'll have to abort the start. A Benetton completely out of sync there. Who is that down there? It's Fisichella, isn't it? Start aborted. I had this back in the 80s once when somebody else took my grid slot, and Fisichella, sorry, what he's done is he's turned over to his grid slot too late. He's obviously got mixed up, expecting all the cars in front of him to go down one more line, one more box, and he's turned too late. Obviously, if he reverses, he'll be disqualified immediately. You cannot reverse on a racetrack. So Fisichella, has done the only thing he can, and that's switch it off. And the clerk of the course has done, the race director's done the only thing he can, and that is abort the start of the race. Fisichella will now be put to the back of the field, and I notice it already. The stewards are investigating Jos Verstappen in the arrows. That will be because the mechanics were on the racetrack, but surely now when they go to restart, Murray, there'll be a man in front of Fisichella holding a yellow flag, stopping him from keeping his current grid position. And now it's effectively a whole new start. Frentzen has retaken his position, which I believe under the rules he's perfectly entitled to do. So that's a major let-off for the Jordan team there. And but it happens. Sometimes it falls your way, sometimes it doesn't. I believe they will stop Fisichella from moving away from the grid and put him at the back. He caused the aborted start by apparently just mistaking which side of the grid he should be parked on, which is the ultimate embarrassment. If he's not, I mean, he just will be so red inside that car. So, and there's the man with the yellow flag in front of Fisichella. So that's his punishment. Everybody else has now got to, and there's a car stalled on the line. And who is that?
It looks like
Montoya.
Marquez in the...
I think it's Montoya.
Oh, you're right, it is Montoya. He certainly didn't need that or want that. Now he's going to have the same problem. You are allowed now to close up through the ranks, provided you can do it without being conveniencing anybody.
Dry ice is what you're seeing bouncing, that's coming out of the radiators. All the teams have shoved dry ice in to try to keep the cars cool. Two starts do not help them at all, and you get this kind of problem creeping in. The clutches get hot, the engines get massively hot. There's a heat soak as they sit on the grid waiting for that restart. And as they brake for the first corner, all of the dry ice shoots out of the radiator side ducting.
Track temperature, according to our information, down quite a lot now to 35 degrees from 43 degrees. I find that hard to believe in the short time that we've had. But that's the official information as the two Ferraris stretch out ahead. I'm surprised at that. I would expect Michael Schumacher, in order to minimise his time on the lead as Montoya's car is seemingly wheeled away, to lead the parade round slowly. Schumacher, that is.
Yes, so Montoya then clearly not just a stalling of the engine. There's some other problem with the looks of it. It's surprising they can't get that to go on the line, and they've got to clear it through a gap where all of the mechanics and support crew are still dragging their generators and spare tyres, etc., etc. And they can now recover that over the white line into the pit lane and try to start him from there. That's
off he goes to get to the spare.
I don't believe
Juan Pablo Montoya rushing down the pit lane.
I don't believe he can use the spare car now, Murray. I'm not absolutely sure about that. I'd be very surprised if he's now allowed to jump in the spare car.
Well, they seem to think so. We'll soon know, because we'll be watching him as you will. So, what a race of dramas already. Michael Schumacher comes out in the spare car at the last moment. Heinz-Harald Frentzen tours round on the first formation lap. Then Giancarlo Fisichella pulls up in the wrong position on the grid, as a result of which the start is aborted. Then Juan Pablo Montoya can't get the Williams, or his people can't get the Williams started. Now, fingers crossed for a clean start this time, not for 56 laps as originally scheduled, but for 55 laps of this 3.4 mile Sepang circuit.
Yes, we still think that because the race has effectively started, this counts as a lap of the race they've just done. Maybe they're hoping to get him in the car. If there's another aborted start, then they're still in the motor race. That is the only reason I can think they're putting him in.
3, 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's going, Malaysia. Beautiful start by Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello not so good. Coming up fast is Ralf Schumacher. Behind him is Jarno Trulli cutting through on the inside. Barrichello blocks him off, and Barrichello and up into second place, but now spinning it goes Ralf Schumacher. Is anybody going to hit him? Ralf Schumacher made a terrific start, but he's lost it. Spins the car round again, and coming up behind him, one of the Jaguars. All his terrific work at the start has been completely nullified, and up into third position in the Jordan comes Jarno Trulli, followed by
Coulthard. That was Coulthard. He had an amazing first
from
corner.
8th position.
Yeah, Coulthard managed to sneak past Hakkinen in that first corner while he was watching Ralf spinning out of contention. And, who have we got here?
That's
Raikkonen, it looked like to me. I think that was Raikkonen.
It was definitely the Sauber, and it was definitely Raikkonen. Yep. So, well, Michael Schumacher leads. But 2 Ferraris up front in Malaysia. And look at the gap between them, and look at the gap even more importantly between Jarno Trulli and David Coulthard after that sensational start. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen is there in 5th position in the Jordan, followed by one of the Arrows. How on earth did that get there, and who is it?
Verstappen.
It's got to be Verstappen, because Bernoldi was right at that. Verstappen must have done an absolutely sensational start, because he's up into 6th position and he started in 18th place.
Let me do a quick 1 to 10, Murray, because the changes are amazing in these first couple of laps of the Grand Prix. One aborted and now just coming over the line to complete their first flying lap. It's Michael Schumacher from Rubens Barrichello by 1.3 seconds. Jarno Trulli, David Coulthard in 4th, Frentzen in the second Jordan 5th, Jos Verstappen, Jacques Villeneuve 7th, Mika Hakkinen down to 8th, so the 2 McLarens have swapped places effectively. Panis 9th and Heidfeld 10th. It's on your screen now, the second half of that of the motor race.
Just listen to who Verstappen has passed. He's got past Jenson Button, Fisichella, Bertie, Raikkonen, Alesi, Irvine, Heidfeld, Panis and Frentzen. No, not Frentzen. He's got ahead of all of those. And he's now running, as you've just heard from Martin, in 6th position. There is the Arrows. Now, what this says to me, Martin, is that looks like
Villeneuve, I think.
Panis or Villeneuve. What this says to me about Jos Verstappen, he's on a very light fuel load and doing a 2-stop strategy. It's early days to tell yet, but that could be one of the reasons why he's been able to sprint up from 18th, and it's Olivier Panis, despairingly out of the race. You can see from his body language that he's pretty fed up about something. There is the answer.
Well, what an amazing start to this Grand Prix. Drama all the way. But Barrichello is just falling back a little bit at the front. Now, he was managing to peg Schumacher pretty much through that first lap, but all of a sudden, Michael just getting on with it. And Panis then, remember, disqualified from a strong position in the Melbourne Grand Prix. And here he is already out of the second Grand Prix of the season. So
over the line goes Michael Schumacher, 2 laps completed. Behind him, Rubens Barrichello, 1.5 seconds. And Ralf Schumacher is starting to storm up through the field. He is currently at the end of the previous lap in 20th position. Barrichello closing a bit on Michael Schumacher as they go through the bends there, with Jarno Trulli already on lap 3, 5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard is less than a second behind Jarno Trulli. So it's Ferrari. They're in the grid order that they started, and Louise Goodman has got news.
Unbelievable drama at the start of this race, Murray, and just to let you know, there may be a bit more to come. I'm standing out at the back of the garages. It's starting to rain.
Well, look at that! Michael Schumacher off, and is he out of the race? He's kept an absolute roar from the crowd. Barrichello goes into the lead. He's off. Amazing. Both the Ferraris off. And Jarno Trulli leads the Malaysian Grand Prix as it starts to the rain. What amazing.
And I haven't seen Coulthard behind him, so did all 3 of them go off? So yes.
Wet, you think? Wet?
Well, it must be raining. Louise just pointed out. Now, Coulthard is there. I'd missed him. And both Ferraris caught out on what must be a slightly damp corner.
One of them third. It must be surely Michael Schumacher who regained the circuit first. We'll know in a moment. We're on lap 3 out of 55 in this incredible race already. As coming towards us from Italy in the Jordan Honda, The Honda engine now leading a Grand Prix for the first time since they've come back into Formula One. And look at the rain pouring down. And when it rains in Malaysia, believe me, it comes down not by the bucketful, but by the ocean full. They're having to slow right off. And here's a replay of Schumacher in the lead and Barrichello behind him.
I believe they went off probably initially on some oil from Panis's blown up BAR Honda. One Ferrari following the other through the gravel traps. That's caused a few heart attacks back in Maranello, but they both just got away with it, and now it's raining hard. They'll have to come in for wets at the end of this lap, I believe. And
you will have seen from that shot that it wasn't Schumacher that regained the track first, it was Barrichello up into third position with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and in they come for rain tyres, James Allen.
Well, there's some cars coming in, Murray. There, that was the Ferrari team. James.
Blinder here. Benetton have played an absolute blinder. They saw the problem. It's absolutely bucketing it down here. Fisichella got service first. Button got service second. Also one of the Minardis, but astonishingly, nobody else came in.
Safety cars out. Safety cars out. I'm not surprised because look at this. The conditions are impossible.
Two Jaguars line astern in the pits then. So the Jaguars in together. The Ferraris went around one more time. That's not got a lot of groove in that wet they're thinking of putting on there. And you're watching Fisichella, who's out now on wet tyres. But those that carried on past the pits will lose out quite heavily here. Depends just when this safety car picks up the pack. That's picked up Button, hasn't it?
It's a Button behind it. Now, we're going to wait for the safety car to come round to try to tell you logically and clearly about what is happening here. But you've heard the word monsoon, and that's Nick Heidfeld sitting in the Sauber, the man who had such a superb race in Australia, finishing in fourth position. Look at his rear wheel spinning. He's beached the car. The ride height in these Formula One cars, the distance between the ground and the bottom of the car is minimal, and he's beached it somewhere, and James Allen has got more news for us.
Well, the $10 million question now, of course, for these teams is who do they bring in first? Who do they serve first? Particularly McLaren. We've got two equal drivers. Who's going to get the tyres first? Is it going to be Hakkinen or Coulthard? From the body language of Ron Dennis, it's going to be Hakkinen, would you believe?
James Trulli is off. Jarno Trulli has gone off the track. You've just seen him. He was the man who was leading the race when the rain started coming down.
Well, this has surprised everybody. I did a scan, and they're not able to get round on their slicks. They're obviously aquaplaning off the road. I think Fisichella's the one who's going to gain most out of this. I believe he's ahead of the safety car and will come back round behind the pack. Cars off everywhere.
Benaldi's gone off.
I did a scan, Murray, of all of the major teams, and they all thought either no rain or a tiny bit of rain this afternoon, and that's why everybody has been so surprised. No sign. We got one Ferrari in the pit then, and Michael Schumacher is having to wait to see Barrichello serviced first. Michael Schumacher is parked up line astern behind the Ferrari of Barrichello.
And there is Montoya well and truly off the track in the Williams. You've seen Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari there with Michael Schumacher, both of them together. Now they're fitting the Bridgestone monsoon tyres, I should think.
Coulthard left the pit first.
Aligned the McLaren team, and particularly Ron Dennis. He was very clever. He brought Coulthard in. Straight away he was out, and then Hakkinen was coming straight in afterwards. Neither car lost any time in that, and they are in an incredibly strong position. Ferrari on the back foot.
Conditions, they will catch the back of the pack up without too much difficulty.
One of my cliches is anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does, but I wouldn't have expected this.
The track's dry, look, Murray. The track is bone dry down there at turn 1 and 2. It's only at the other end of the circuit have we got any rain.
Well, now let me give you from our telemetry here what seems to be the race order at the moment. I say seems to be because all is confusion with so much happening, but we're on lap 5 out of the race distance, which is about 1/11th distance, with David Coulthard 9 seconds ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, or he was, because don't forget they're tight up now. And Rubens Barrichello was in third position ahead of Michael Schumacher and Jos Verstappen. But we need time to settle down and let things clarify, because there is the race leader, David Coulthard. You've heard about the coup from James Allen that Ron Dennis, and remember what I said earlier on, people were writing McLaren off as off goes Rubens Barrichello again. What a very unhappy race this is already turning out for Ferrari. James Allen.
Hugely red faces down at Ferrari, as you would expect, Murray. They simply didn't have the tyres ready, as Martin pointed out. They'd had a lot of drama in the build-up to this race, with Schumacher at the very last minute having to switch from the race car to the spare car, I believe because of a hydraulic problem. There was a lot of edginess, and they just didn't get it right. McLaren were absolutely like clockwork, but you want the real irony, guys. It's stopping raining now.